Okay, so we shall start. Has anyone ever heard of DrugBank? You guys have used it before in previous events, or you were just trying to explore few things on the internet and you tried looking into DrugBank. Anyone? Okay, no worries. So go to Google and just search DrugBank, and you will get this in the result: DrugBank Online, database for drug and drug targets. You can click on that and you will get this interface. Let me know with thumbs up if you have got this interface. And okay, okay, cool. So today we'll just try to understand what DrugBank is and how DrugBank works. So this is a website or a web tool which is having a large database of drugs and its targets. It is not just the drug name and the target name, it is having a lot of different things. So DrugBank, it uses a technique called as curation. So with the help of automation or the system that is designed by the developers, it will scan the scientific literature as well as everything that is posted on some authentic publications. It will try to scan through all of those and it will try to identify the name of proteins, the name of drugs, and what are the side effects the drug is having, etc. etc. Are you guys getting it? There will be some scientific, maybe like an article website where good scientists, they write a blog or an article. They try to explain this drug had this side effect and it was tested on these many individuals. So something like that. So it tries to go through all the existing scientific data on the internet and it uses a large amount of data for the curation. Many might not be accessible to like common people. So the thing is, that's how it works. Once it analyzes the data, it tries to find those important things. For example, just to make our understanding simpler, maybe the drug name. There was a paper which mentioned that drug X was used in treating the cancer. So it identifies that name and it will remember that this drug is used for cancer treatment. And then if there was any side effect mentioned in the same literature, it will try to remember that or it will try to collect that information. And then once the information is curated, it tries to put that information in a form of a table. Have you guys heard of schema? If you have worked with SQL, structured query language, or you guys tried exploring database management. Okay, no worries. So schema is nothing but a representation. Wait, I'll just show you guys. Yeah. So you can look at this photo. There are, if you just look at the blue tables, you have one, two, three, four, five. You have five different tables, and you can see there is a line connecting the table. And it just means that there are independent tables, but they're not completely separate. One of the parameters in each table is connecting with the other table. Are you guys able to understand? So you are creating multiple tables and then you are linking those tables in a systemic format, and that is called as schema in database management. Why can't we store everything in a single table? That will just make the table too complicated and it just doesn't make sense. So they try to divide the data. For example, I think this is related to order. You have a table for customers, you have a table for staff, you have a table for stores, you have table for orders. So they try to segregate the data broadly and then they try to connect each table. This is called a schema, and something like this is present in the back end of the drug bank where you have different tables to handle different data. If I just search paracetamol, you can see I got this. You guys can also try searching it. You have a description and it says a medication used to reduce fever and treat pain. And it says it's a small molecule and a unique ID for this is the drug bank ID, and it says it is approved in the United States, and it also says other approved, and it says there are 36 patents and 55 indicated conditions. And it also gives you some data related to clinical trials, phase 1 to phase 4. And under therapeutics, it says it belongs to analgesics. I think analgesics are those, the compounds that are used to treat pain. So you can see for a drug, a large amount of information is being stored. And if you go down, you have summary, you have brand name. I hope you guys know chemical molecule will be same, but if there are two different companies, they try to label it with two different names and they try to sell it to you. Are you guys able to understand? Okay. So you have a generic name, a chemical name, that is acetaminophen for paracetamol, and then you have some background information, type, and it also says, this is also something very important. It says approved but is still under investigation, and it also gives you some numeric data about weight, chemical formula, etc. It also stores vast amount of information. You can see on my left, you have a scroll bar, and there is interaction, categories, chemical identifiers, clinical trials, targets, enzymes, carriers, transporters. It stores a large amount of data for a single drug. And in the same way, it has millions of chemical molecules data present within it. That's why it creates a schema to store the segregated information of a molecule. Hope you guys are able to understand this. Okay, now talking about the same, because the medical data is complex and there is a large volume of pharmacological data that is being generated every day through different experiments, through different trials. So it becomes very important that whatever is being stored here on the drug bank is reliable, and there is no scam happening on this drug bank. So that becomes very important. That's why what they do is, as I told, they implement a method called as curation, where they curate all the biological data. And if there is a molecule, let's say acetaminophen, they try to cross verify the same molecule in multiple existing databases. Have you guys heard of KEGG pathways? Yeah, so it is something related to, you know, um, where you can uh, get to know the pathway of interaction of two different molecules, or how drug interacts with the target, something like that. We will look into that as well in future. And there is something called as Ensembl. It is for chemical molecules again. I hope you guys have heard that also. In alchemics, we used Ensembl. And then you have UniProt for proteins, you have NCBI where you have gene informations. So it tries to relate, it tries to fetch data from every possible available database, and it tries to form a curated data, and then it structures it by assigning a part of the data to specific columns. And it also tries to follow, have you guys heard of FDA, America's drug agency? Think it is quite famous. Yeah. So there are different drug regulatory bodies in different countries, and also there are some international regulatory bodies. It tries to follow the publications or uh, the work of those regulatory bodies and whatever they release, so that if a body says that, if tomorrow FDA says some drug which is being used currently now is toxic to humans and it should not be used, it should be banned, it will take that into consideration and it will implement the change on the website as well. Because if you sometimes here you can see there was a part on the website which said approved but investigation under investigation. Yeah, here it said approved but under investigation. For some molecules, we'll also come across initially it was approved, then it will say withdrawn. So that just means that there was some problem with it, or a more research was needed for the molecule to be released, and they withdrew the permission. So it tries to follow the regulatory body's work as well. And clinical trials of different governments. In every country, government bodies they run clinical trials. For example, for COVID, in India, there were clinical trials for, you know, the medicines that were designed here, and I think Sputnik, it was designed in Russia. They had clinical trials there, and sometimes even different population might give different reactions to a same drug. So that is also something very important. So this drug bank tries to follow the clinical trials data as well, and if it notices any discrepancy between the two references, for example, for the same molecule, one website said it is really good, one should go for it, one should use it, but there was one more website which said it is too toxic for humans. So in that case, it will carefully analyze it. Only after undergoing manual scrutiny and research and approval, information will be displayed here on the drug bank. Hope I'm making sense. You also have, the mechanism of action, how paracetamol works. This is something you will learn in immunology class as well. Yeah, how it is going to be absorbed and how it is going to be distributed, volume of distribution, how protein binding happens, what is the metabolism of this paracetamol, and how it is going to be eliminated. So vast amount of data related to a particular compound will be stored, and half life of the same, and if there are any adverse effects, etc., toxicity. So it is really, really helpful. Yeah. So what happens is if there are any such discrepancies that the machine initially identifies, it will keep that on hold, and a humans committee, it will sit and it will discuss that issue. It will try to come to a conclusion which is valid and scientific. Then it will pass the information to be displayed here on the drug bank. You can here see there is approved, there is VET approved. Yeah, you might have to create an account to get access to everything. I haven't logged in here. It also talks about food interactions. What if you drink alcohol with paracetamol. So it might increase the risk of hepatotoxicity. And also you have some images here. Yeah. We'll try to, in future sessions, we'll try to understand what every section is trying to say, because you have a lot to understand. And also here, if we go back, we searched for a drug. The drug was paracetamol, but there are a few more things that we can search. We can search for targets, we can search for pathways, we can also search for indications. We will try to understand what these things are, and then we'll also try doing some case studies. We'll use one molecule, we'll work on it, and then we'll try to understand the information. And good part is this drug bank gets updated daily, and it has like software based version which it releases quarterly with including all the updates. So on the website it gets updated regularly, but if you're going to install an app or a software, it releases the updated version quarterly. So that's how the whole process is. And have you guys heard of API and the use of APIs? Okay, so API is like, um, if I can draw something, yeah. So API, let's say I'm designing a website where it's a website for hospitals where if a doctor prescribes something to patient, if a doctor says a patient has to take this medicine 3 times a day, but the patient wants to know what the drug really does. So in that case, what I can do is I can use this API to fetch the data from the drug bank. So this API is designed or generated for every database. Like you can create it. So what it does is when you have a query, or yeah, we call it query. I don't know what's happening. So when you have a query, so what it does, it gives that query to API of the drug bank in this case, and this API of the drug bank, it is like a key to the room. So you have something, and this drug bank will pass the query to the drug bank database, and it will fetch the details that you require, and then it will give the answer to you. Are you guys able to understand? It is like someone is securing the vault. If you go to them and if you say that I want some money, only the person who is handling the vault will enter the vault, and he or she will bring the how much money you require. Are you guys able to understand? So it is kind of like a security protection for the database as well. And by this, you also save a lot of space. For example, like if I had to create a whole database of the drugs itself, I need a lot of space. Instead of that, if I just use the API, it will just redirect it to the drug bank, it will fetch the information, and it will give me the answer. So that's how it works. And also the important or the good point is this drug bank, it allows for suggestions or comments from all kinds of users, and it critically evaluates those concerns let's say someone mentioned or wrote a comment that this molecule is bad, but it is still being used, it should be banned, something like that. The committee will cautiously evaluate the molecule or its effects, and it is not a kind of website where comments are ignored. So that's what I'm trying to say. So this is scientific and it is used a lot in the phase of drug discovery and also in bioinformatics and pharmacology. So this was all about introduction today. Uh, tomorrow, sorry, not tomorrow. In the next bioinformatics session, we'll try to understand the working of the drug bank by using some molecules example. We will also try drugs and, I mean, try looking into drugs and targets and pathways and indications. Would that be okay? Okay, I wanted to keep today's session short as it's also Saturday. So I think that is all for today. Hope you guys understood how drug bank works. You can also try for few compounds here and you can try exploring the website as well. Especially the important part is I like is this one where you can understand the mechanism of the drug and also the toxic effects. It clearly explains. Or in one more way we can try to understand is how many of you were there for Swiss ADME? Yeah. So in Swiss ADME, all of these things, absorption, distribution, metabolism, they were represented in the form of number. There were no descriptions. Are you guys able to understand? But here you have a whole paragraph explaining what is happening. But in Swiss ADME, it was more like if the value is below the threshold, it indicates something. If it is above the threshold, it is trying to say something else. Okay, guys. So this was all about today's session. It was just an introduction to DrugBank. Hope you guys understood and liked it, and we'll try exploring this in detail in future. And anyone is interested in coordinating bioinformatics sessions, like if I assign you a topic, you are willing to work on it. Anyone like that? I think that will also be a nice experience. Okay, no worries. So thank you so much for joining. Good night.